It was raining when I followed her. I wasn't planning to. I didn't even know where she was going, but when she left the house 2 hours after that cold little showdown in the kitchen, muttering something about grabbing her laptop from the office, I got in my truck and followed. No jacket, no plan, just instinct. Something was buzzing under my skin, some need to see it, not hear it secondhand, not imagine it. See the lie with my own eyes. She didn't go to her office. She drove 23 minutes northeast into the city, through the morning traffic, no music, no stops. I stayed 3 cars behind, lights off, windshield wipers scraping. She turned into a downtown parking garage. I parked across the street and waited. For minutes later, she came back out without the laptop she supposedly needed, holding her phone up to her ear, laughing at something. The same fake laugh I hadn't heard at home in months. Then he showed up. Khaki pants, button up too tight around the arms, gelled hair. Looked like a walking HR meeting. I recognized him from the company Christmas party last year, Tyler something. He walked up to her like she belonged to him. Hand on her waist. Kissed her like it wasn't the first time. I didn't look away. She laughed again, louder this time, and they walked together toward the elevator. Like a scene they'd practiced. And that was it. The moment that cracked something inside me. Because there was no guilt in her face. No nervous glances. She wasn't scared of being caught. She looked happy. You ever watch your life get replaced in real time? The part that broke me wasn't the kiss. It was how easy it looked for her. I didn't confront her then. I went back home and sat in the driveway for 2 hours. Engine off. Rain drumming on the roof. I didn't cry. Couldn't. I kept waiting for something inside to collapse, but all I felt was this dull, sinking pressure. Like I was underwater. I wanted to believe it was just some moment of weakness. A one-time thing. Some mistake we could talk through. But that wasn't what I saw. What I saw was choice. Calculated, repeated, familiar choice. When she came home later, she didn't even flinch. Said, sorry it took so long. Got stuck waiting for one of the interns. She kissed me on the cheek. The same cheek she'd left hours ago to go press against his mouth. I stood in the kitchen and watched her put her keys on the counter like nothing had changed. And that was when I knew I couldn't unknow it. I couldn't unsee it. And I sure as hell couldn't pretend to be the husband of a woman who was this good at lying. Not anymore. I didn't say anything for 3 days. Not a word about Tyler. Not a question. Not a confrontation. I just watched. And she? She got bolder. The third night, she came home late again. Hair curled. Makeup redone. A faint perfume that wasn't hers clung to her like a signature. She didn't bother making up a story this time. Just walked in, took off her heels at the door, and asked if we had any of that red wine left. Like I was her roommate. Like she hadn't just spent the evening in another man's arms. That night, I went through her phone while she was in the shower. She never left it out before, but I think part of her wanted me to see it by now. Or maybe she stopped caring. Either way, it was face up on the nightstand. No password. She didn't even try to hide it anymore. There were texts. So many. Tyler, you looked so hot today. That dress? Unreal. Could barely keep my hands off you. Jessica, you didn't have to. I was hoping you'd take them off. And pictures. Her in a hotel mirror, biting her lip, leg up on the sink. A receipt for room 417 at the Waverly. Same date Amanda gave me. Voice notes. Him calling her baby. Her giggling like she was 17 again. I scrolled for 15 minutes and didn't even get halfway through their thread. But the worst part? The part one haven't told anyone? There was a message from her. To him. Last week. Jessica, he still hasn't figured it out. It's honestly pathetic. That was me. She was talking about me. That sentence, that's the one that'll stick with me. Probably forever. It wasn't just the affair. It wasn't just the betrayal. It was the contempt. The disgust she had for me while I was still trying to save us. Still waking up early to make her coffee. Still folding her laundry. Still defending her to Amanda when she said something felt off. That sentence was the real dagger. She wasn't sorry. She was enjoying it. I backed out of the phone, placed it exactly how I found it. Got up, walked to the kitchen, poured a glass of that red wine she wanted. Sat at the table in the dark until I heard the water shut off. She walked into the kitchen in one of my shirts, hers always wear my shirts after seeing him like some twisted victory dance, and asked, "What are you doing up?" I handed her the glass, smiled, and said, "Just couldn't sleep." And I meant it. Sleep was done. She left her laptop open the next morning. That was her second mistake. The first was underestimating me. I waited until she went to her morning yoga, which now I knew meant whatever hotel he had time for, and sat down at the kitchen counter like I was checking email. I wasn't sure what I expected to find. But I knew there was more. There's always more. People like her, they don't do this once. They build patterns. They build entire lives on lies like brickwork. I opened her messages app. It was synced to her phone. She had folders. She had folders. One labeled work, clients. One labeled home. And one, tucked between them, named T. It was like unlocking a door she never meant me to see behind. There were emails. Not just from Tyler. From another guy too, Marcus. That name never came up before. Different city. Different timeline. She was rotating them. Tyler was the current. Marcus was last fall. And me? I was the default. The base camp. The one she came back to when the weekend was over. When the thrill was gone. When the drinks were dry and the hotel sheets turned cold. I was the bridge between her flings. I saw a calendar invite from last November. Wellness retreat. That weekend I helped her pack, kissed her goodbye at the airport, and made her playlist for the drive. She never went. She flew to Denver. Marcus lives in Denver. This wasn't a mistake. This was a system. She didn't just cheat. She managed it like a portfolio, like a job. And then it hit me. How many times had she hugged me after seeing one of them? Cooked dinner? Whispered, "I love you," in the dark. How many lies had I swallowed thinking they were just rough patches or work stress? How many versions of my wife were walking around out there? And how many of them hated me for not noticing sooner? I closed the laptop. I didn't touch another thing. I stood in the hallway for a long time, just staring at the wedding photo on the wall. Her smile looked different now. Too wide. Like she knew something even back then. Like she was daring me to catch up. And maybe that's when I made the decision. Not to fix it. Not to scream or beg or get even. But to end it quietly. Cleanly. She wanted drama. I wasn't going to give it to her. I was going to take everything she thought she had control of, and vanish with it. Starting with the one thing she took for granted most. Me. I started with the bank accounts. She always assumed I was the passive one. The stable husband who handled the bills, set the budgets, moved money around while she danced through her excuses. What she forgot was that I was also the one with the passwords, the routing numbers, the access, joint account first. I didn't clear it, no, that would have tipped her off. I just opened a new account in my name only and started siphoning little pieces. 300 here, 250 there. Scheduled transfers at night, every 2 or 3 days. Just enough to slide under the radar. Then the credit cards. I froze the ones in my name and opened a fraud alert on hers. Let her try booking her next weekend getaway with Tyler on that. The lawyer came next. I didn't want some chain billboard guy. I wanted quiet, surgical, invisible. I met her in a cafe 2 towns over, used cash to pay for the consultation. She listened, took notes. When I showed her the screenshots, emails, texts, the hotel confirmations, she nodded slowly and said the words that anchored me. "You're going to be okay. Not we'll fight this. Not let's see what we can do. Just you're going to be okay." That night, I lay in bed beside Jessica while she scrolled through Instagram like nothing was broken, double-tapping photos of fake happy couples and overpriced brunches. I watched her fingers move. I watched her smile at other people's lives. And I realized she was never coming back. Because she was never really in this to begin with. She had taken our marriage like a rental car, driven it hard, pushed it past its limits, and now it was just a shell with her name still on the lease. The confrontation was coming. Not yet, not loud, but soon. She made it easier the next day. Left her phone out again, face down. This time I didn't even need to guess, he called. I watched the name light up. Tyler Work. Cute. She didn't answer. Just smiled to herself, flipped it over, and asked me if I wanted Thai for dinner. I nodded, said, sure, what I really wanted. I wanted her to keep believing she was winning, because the more she thought she was in control, the better it would feel when I finally pulled the rug out and she realized she'd been living in a world that I had already started erasing. She thought she was playing a game. She didn't know I'd already ended it. The Thai food never got eaten. That night, while she was in the shower, again that long, deliberate kind she always took after being with him, I sat on the couch with the divorce papers. I tucked them into a plain folder, no label, just clean, sharp, white. She didn't know they'd already been drawn up. She didn't know they were signed on my end. She didn't know they were sitting in our living room, 12 feet from where she was rinsing off another man. She came out in a towel, steam trailing behind her, humming like nothing in the world had ever gone wrong. She flopped down next to me, kissed my cheek. God, the audacity, and pulled the blanket over her legs. She leaned her head on my shoulder and whispered, "You're being so sweet lately." Sweet, that's what she called it. I didn't say anything, just stared at the muted TV. Couldn't look at her. Not with that voice in my head, the one from the text. The one that called me pathetic. She fell asleep on my arm. Out cold in 10 minutes. I sat there for another hour, still as a statue. When she started snoring, I slid out from under her, grabbed the folder, and placed it gently on the kitchen counter where she couldn't miss it in the morning. On top of it, I left the hotel receipts, the printouts of her messages, a photo of her and Tyler, hand in hand, walking into the Waverly, and a note, not long, just 6 words. "You'll need a new roommate. R." I packed before sunrise. 2 duffel bags, laptop, documents, left the wedding album behind on purpose. By 7 a.m. I was gone. She called me 32 times that day, texted even more. It started with confusion. "Where are you? Did something happen?" Then the tone shifted. "If this is about Tyler, it's not what you think. You're seriously going to ruin everything over this? You're acting insane." I didn't respond. Not one word. The last message that night was simple. "You're being a coward." I didn't disagree. I just didn't care. Because walking away from her wasn't weakness. It was the first act of strength I'd had in years. I sat in a cheap motel that night, eating cold pizza and listening to the hum of the ice machine outside. It wasn't glamorous. It wasn't some movie scene of triumph. But it was mine. The first quiet I'd had in months. And in that silence, for the first time, I felt something that almost scared me. Relief. I found out how fast someone can rewrite a story when they think you're not around to correct it. By day 2, she told her parents I had abandoned her. By day 3, she was posting cryptic quotes on Instagram. Stuff like, "Some people don't deserve the love you give them," and "Sometimes the one you take a bullet for pulls the trigger." That one made me laugh, almost out loud. The irony would have been hilarious if it wasn't so warped. Tyler didn't show up in any of the pictures, of course, but the captions started changing. She was planting seeds. She knew what she was doing. She wanted sympathy. She wanted attention. And she was damn good at it. I didn't respond. I didn't post. I didn't fight her online. I just watched the theater unfold while I sat in a friend's guest room, sleeping on a futon that smelled like beer and borrowed cologne. It wasn't home, but it wasn't poisoned either. Then Amanda messaged me again. She sent a screenshot of Jessica's latest girls' night post. Her and 2 friends at a rooftop bar, holding cocktails, faces duck-lipped into the sunset. Tyler was cropped out, but Amanda had the original. She sent that too. There he was, arm around her waist, hand just low enough to be bold, grinning like he'd won something. The caption? "Free to be me, Blackheart. Free." She was acting like she'd escaped, like I was the prison. That was the moment it flipped for me. That's when I stopped hurting. It's weird, you expect the pain to drag on, to hit you in waves. But sometimes it just breaks. Not like a snap, not like glass shattering. More like when a TV suddenly loses signal. Silent, blank, done. That's what it felt like. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't even heartbroken. I was bored of her. And once that happened, everything changed. I emailed her attorney the next morning and authorized the filing. Told them she could keep the furniture, the car, the stupid espresso machine she wouldn't stop bragging about. I didn't want a single thing that had her fingerprints on it. And then I called Amanda. For the first time since that midnight call. She answered fast. "Hey," she said. "How are you holding up?" "Better," I said. "And thanks for telling me, for being the only honest person in that whole circle." There was a pause. Then she said, "You deserved better, Ryan. I didn't reply. Not because I disagreed, but because I knew it was finally true. She showed up at my door on a Thursday. Not our door, the one with the porch swing and the rosemary plant I used to water every morning. That door wasn't mine anymore. This was my friend Luke's apartment. Second floor, cracked tile, broken buzzer. The kind of place where neighbors leave their trash outside too long and no one minds because everyone's just trying to survive the week. She must have followed Amanda's Instagram or tracked my email logins, I don't know. Doesn't matter. But she knocked like she had a right to be there. I opened it because I knew she wouldn't go away. She looked off. Makeup too sharp. Hair too perfect. Clothes too tight. Like she was trying to remind me of what I lost. "You're really staying here?" she asked, eyes flicking past me to the futon behind my shoulder. Seriously. That's what she opened with. Not, "Can we talk?" Not, "I'm sorry." Not even, "I was wrong." Just judgment. Like her affair had been an inconvenience for me and not a full-body betrayal. I stepped aside. Not to let her in. Just to be polite. But she walked in anyway. "This is stupid," she said, pacing the room. "You leaving like that?" Not even giving me a chance to explain. I leaned against the fridge. "What were you gonna explain, Jess? Which hotel? Which guy? Which lie?" She stopped. Turned. "It wasn't like that." I laughed. First real laugh in days. Not because it was funny, because it was so predictable. "You cheated," I said calmly. "You lied. You mocked me behind my back. I saw the messages." She crossed her arms, shifting her weight like she was building to something. "I didn't mean for it to happen." There it was. The script. The line. The lazy, empty, cliché excuse. "So Tyler was an accident?" I asked. Silence. "And Marcus?" That one hit her. Her face twitched. Just for a second. Then it hardened. "You went through my stuff?" "You left it wide open," I said. "Like everything else." She shook her head. "You're not perfect either." I blinked. "When did I say I was?" You checked out. You stopped making me feel seen." There it was again. That twist. That slithery attempt to frame her betrayal as my failure. "You're unbelievable," I muttered. "I needed something more," she said, stepping closer now. "You became boring, Ryan." That word hung in the air like poison. I didn't flinch. I just looked at her, the woman I once thought I'd grow old with, standing in a stranger's living room, trying to win an argument that she lost the second she slid into another man's bed. "Then go be excited," I said, nodding toward the door. "Go be wild. Be reckless. Be free." Her eyes flashed. For a second I saw it, the panic. The dawning horror that I wasn't angry anymore. That I didn't want to fight. That I'd let her go. She wasn't used to that. She was used to control. She walked out without another word. I didn't watch her go. Didn't even close the door for a while. Just stood there, listening to her heels disappear down the stairs, each step like a final period on a sentence I'd spent years trying to write. I didn't hear from her for almost 2 weeks after that. And then came the email. No subject line. No greeting. Just a message. "You were right. Hope you're happy now." That was it. No apology. No explanation. No accountability. Just those 6 little words dripping with sarcasm and blame, like she was the one left holding the pieces. I didn't respond. I didn't have to. By then, the divorce papers were already signed, processed, and on file. Her lawyer tried to push back on a few things, claimed I was emotionally coercive because I hadn't warned her I was leaving. My lawyer laughed. The evidence I submitted shut that down in less than a week. She got to keep the house. I let her. I didn't want it. She kept the espresso machine too. Fitting, really. All appearance, no warmth. What I kept. My name. My time. My peace. I stayed at Luke's place for another month while I figured things out. Started going to the gym again, not to look better, just to feel again. Something about sweating out what she left in me felt right. I changed my number. Blocked her on everything. Even deleted the wedding photos from my drive. I didn't want a monument to fiction sitting in my memories. I got lunch with Amanda a couple times too. Nothing romantic, just real. The way people talk when the masks are off and the lies are over. She told me Jessica was still seeing Tyler. But it wasn't going well. Something about him being non-committal and distant. Apparently, he didn't want anything serious. Go figure. Amanda rolled her eyes and said she thought he'd replace you. I just smiled. She didn't understand. There was no replacement. Not because I was perfect. Not because I was irreplaceable. But because she never actually knew what she had. She played a game I wasn't playing. She lit the house on fire, then cried about the cold. She wanted me to hurt. To chase. To beg. Instead, I walked away and that's what broke her. I ran into her again by accident. Grocery store of all places. A random Tuesday afternoon in a part of town she never used to set foot in. I was in the frozen aisle holding a bag of mixed vegetables when I heard that voice behind me, too familiar, too rehearsed. Ryan? I turned. And there she was. No makeup this time. Hair tied up messy. Wearing one of those oversized sweatshirts she used to steal from me, though I knew this one wasn't mine. She looked smaller. Not physically, just less. Less presence. Less heat. Like someone had unplugged whatever battery used to power her performance. She looked me up and down like she didn't expect me to look the same. Like she was hoping time had done to me what she'd done herself. You look, she started, then shrugged. Good. I didn't say anything. She took a breath like she wanted to start a monologue but couldn't find her first line. I've been meaning to reach out, she said. But I figured. I don't know. You figured what? She flinched a little. Like she hadn't expected me to speak. Like my voice belonged in the past. I figured you hated me. I tilted my head. I don't. That surprised her. I don't hate you, Jess, I said. I just don't care anymore. And I meant it. That's the thing, people assume the opposite of love is hate, but that's not true. Hate still takes energy. Still needs your attention. The real opposite is nothing. Just space. Just the absence of everything. She looked down, tried to laugh, failed. I messed up, she said. Yeah, I replied. Long pause. I thought he'd be different, she added, barely above a whisper. I nodded slowly. They usually are until they aren't. She swallowed. Her eyes shimmered a bit, but I knew her well enough to know the difference between real tears and self-pity. She wasn't mourning me. She was mourning her reflection in my eyes, the version of herself she got to believe in when I still loved her. You really just moved on? She asked. I had to. She nodded slowly like she finally understood that there was no path back. Are you seeing someone? No, I said. I'm seeing me. And that answer, the simplicity of it, broke something in her. I saw it happen. Her shoulders slumped, just a little. The corner of her mouth twitched like she wanted to make a joke but couldn't find one. Well, I guess I'll see you around, she said, turning the cart. I nodded again. Didn't say goodbye. She walked away down the cereal aisle, that same sweatshirt slipping off one shoulder like it always did. But this time there was no gravity between us. No ache. Just a stranger moving through a story I'd already finished reading. The last time I said her name out loud, it was to cancel her as my emergency contact. I was updating my info at the doctor's office. They handed me a clipboard with that little line next to, in case of emergency, contact. For years, it had been her. By default. By habit. Because back then, if something happened to me, I wanted her to know first. Yeah? I didn't even pause. I wrote my brother's name instead. Clean stroke. Sharp ink. That's when I knew I was done in the marrow. That she was no longer tethered to my life in any way that mattered. I moved out of Luke's apartment the following week. Found a quiet one-bedroom just north of the river. Nothing fancy. Just enough light. Just enough quiet. I bought a couch that didn't come from a catalog we picked out together. Painted the walls a color she would have hated. And I slept. God, I slept. No more waiting for the garage to creak open at midnight. No more pretending not to hear the text buzz at 2:07 a.m. No more wondering if the kiss I got in the morning was meant for someone else. I found new routines. I started reading again. Actual books, not articles on how to fix your marriage in 5 steps. I cooked for myself. And not just eggs and toast, real meals. Food that filled the house with smells she never got to experience. I even laughed again. Real, ugly, stupid laughter. Not the polite kind. Not the social lubricant kind. The kind that starts in your stomach and makes your face hurt. I saw Amanda one last time too. She asked if I hated her for dropping the truth like she did. I told her no. She saved my life. Because if she hadn't made that call, I might still be living in that lie. Might still be folding Jessica's laundry, waiting for her to come home, telling myself this was just a phase. I might still be clinging to a ghost wearing my wife's face. You don't realize how far gone you were until you've been pulled out. And now? Now I wake up and breathe air that doesn't reek of suspicion. I don't count the hours. I don't chase her approval like a prize I lost somewhere back in 2019. I just live. If you're reading this because something feels off in your own relationship, trust your gut. Don't wait for the text messages. Don't wait for the late nights, the perfume that isn't hers, the dead-eyed smiles across the dinner table. If your heart keeps whispering this isn't right, believe it. And if they try to make you feel like you're crazy for asking questions, you're not. They are. She made me feel like I was paranoid. Like I was overthinking. Like I was boring. But the truth is, I was just too loyal for her taste. And that's not a flaw. That's AF asterisk ing superpower asterisk asterisk. The story's over. And I'm not sad anymore. I'm free.